morning. Thank you, David. Ladies and gentlemen, I must begin by paying tribute to David Pickler, who has been a truly remarkable, tireless, and passionate president of our association this past year. David, thank you so much. Thanks to his leadership, along with the extraordinary work of our officers, our board of directors, state association elected leaders and executive directors, and the NSBA staff, we have accomplished much of what we set out to do last April when we met in San Diego. Back then, when I was introduced as your new executive director, we talked about the need for NSBA, together with our state association members, to be more assertive in our advocacy, to tell the good news about what's happening in public education, and equally important, to push back against those who would sell off our public schools to the highest bidder. Our goal was to set the agenda for education and not simply react to what others think. And that's exactly what we've been doing. Over the past year, NSBA has adopted our own vision of the future of public education, along with guiding principles. We created an ambitious grassroots advocacy plan that focused initially on growing our federal relations network of school board members, as well as enlisting many others into our army of advocates, including General Honor A. Well, I'm pleased to report that FRN has grown from 3,700 school board members at this time last year to 43,000 today. And literally, hundreds of thousands of members of other education organizations have been added to this army, making it a truly formidable force. We've retooled internally, too, overhauling our traditional FRN conference into a completely new advocacy institute that encompasses legislative, legal, and public advocacy issues. And just yesterday, our state association leaders attending the annual delegate assembly meeting experienced a truly transformed event that focused on the most critical issues facing public schools. And the work of that delegate assembly will serve as the centerpiece for a new advocacy agenda that the NSBA board will adopt in June. Now, all of this has been accompanied by work on Capitol Hill, where our lobbyists, supported by the active involvement of school board members from across the country, have weighed in on every education issue. We drafted and had introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives NSBA's own bill, the Local School Board Governance and Flexibility Act, which is designed to protect against overreaching by the federal government in local school decision-making. This proposal was largely incorporated into the ESEA reauthorization legislation that passed the House last year. So NSBA's fingerprints, therefore, are on the most significant K-12 education bill to move in either House of Congress this session. Our efforts to keep the federal government from exceeding its authority in making education policy also extends to our legal advocacy, where we've focused on the regulatory actions of the executive branch. NSBA has increased the number of friend of court briefs that we file in key cases across the country, and our voice is being heard. Last year, for example, Justice Anthony Kennedy not only cited NSBA's brief, but quoted it at great length in casting the deciding vote in our favor in a major employment law case. NSBA has made other changes this past year, too. We revised the former National Affiliate Program into a National Connection service offered by state associations in partnership with NSBA. These resources, along with discounts to the annual conference, are proving to be extremely helpful to the subscribing districts. And I encourage you to get more information about National Connection at our NSBA booth in the exhibit hall. And if you're a National Connection district or an individual subscriber, you probably noticed the redesign of the American School Board Journal. The new ASBJ still has the same great writing and reporting, but it contains many new features and a really clean, fresh look. And today, I'm pleased to introduce another change that we're making at NSBA, the rollout of our brand new website. We listened to those of you who said to us, in effect, "You've got a lot of great stuff on the NSBA website, but I can't find it." So the new site has a much more robust search capability and better functionality, including mobile-friendly design and better content organization. Now, folks, all of these changes are being made for a reason, namely to position NSBA as the leading advocate for public education. It's an ambitious goal, but given the challenges facing public schools today, it's one we simply must achieve. And we're reminded of these challenges on an almost daily basis. For instance, I was speaking recently with a school board member friend of mine who told me about a meeting she attended with a prominent legislator. Now, this lawmaker made a bold statement. He said, "The problem with public education is that we haven't changed what we're doing for 200 years. Really? Nothing has changed in 200 years? Now, I'd like to tell you that he was being provocative, but the sad truth is he actually meant it. Now, obviously, he hasn't been in a public school, possibly for decades, because if he had, the changes would be obvious. We've strengthened curriculum, we've revised how it's delivered, we've reconfigured school facilities, and we're educating far more students to much higher levels than ever before. Graduation rates are up, NAEP scores and other measures of student achievement are up, and we're doing all of this with a pupil population that's becoming more diverse and a childhood poverty rate that is far in excess of other industrialized countries. So let's review. We're expecting more of schools which are achieving better results despite enormous headwinds. And yet, despite all of this, a legislator who should know better is comfortable saying that nothing has changed. Well, as Don Quixote said, facts are the enemy of truth. This particular legislator demonstrated that statements asserted as facts can be the most dangerous threat to the truth. They can be convincing just by how forcefully they're stated, or even by how often they're repeated. And so we must take the initiative to change that conversation. NSBA is taking a major step in that direction today with the formal launch of our national Stand Up for Public Schools campaign. Now, a campaign like this needs at least two things to be successful: spokespeople who have credibility and will attract the public's attention, and messages that the public will remember. Oh, and colorful wristbands, too. So we have all that covered. And we're honored that such respected celebrities as Sal Khan and Montel Williams and Magic Johnson have agreed to be spokespersons for our campaign. And as you know, Magic Johnson will be here and will address this conference on Monday. The other essential ingredient, a powerful message, is of course even more important than the messengers. These spokespeople are able to say honestly that their lives were shaped in powerful ways by public schools, and they each have great stories to tell. The truth is that public schools really are better than ever. Now, folks, we're not saying that public schools are perfect. They're not. And we must acknowledge that we have work to do in certain schools that are struggling to serve students well. And this will be a major area of focus for NSBA in the coming year. But still, if we don't call attention to the incredible gains in student achievement and graduation rates and school performance generally, who will? And if we don't get our story out, we know that we allow others to define us. And as we've often seen, those others don't necessarily tell the story accurately. So that's why this national campaign is so vital. We want to encourage every state association and local school district to join in this campaign. And all these efforts are linked together to serve a common purpose, to fulfill our commitment to be the leading advocate for public education, to call attention to what's working well, to promote our own vision and needed changes, and to take on those who would dismantle the public schools of America. I'd like to close by saying a brief word about a truly momentous event. The 60th anniversary of the Supreme Court decision in Brown versus Board of Education. That landmark ruling completely reshaped public education and in so doing sent a very powerful message. And that is that all students deserve a great education. And separate systems are not equal. Now the landscape has changed a lot in the last 6 decades, but the issue remains exactly the same. And we cannot sit back and watch as state and federal governments underfund schools and promote the creation of charter schools and voucher programs that too often have the effect of resegregating our schools. All movement is not progress, and backsliding is movement in exactly the wrong direction. We have one goal. It's a big one. It's not easy, but it's not too much to ask. And that is simply that all children in America must be able to attend a great public school where they live. No exceptions, no excuses. That is the great challenge that's facing us, so I ask you to please join us in this important work. Thank you very much. Thank you.